Hello and welcome back to part 2 of this biofuel factory creation I'm putting together here. We're going to continue to build it up, putting more and more objects into it until we get something that looks and resembles something like a biofuel factory. So thank you very much for watching, and yeah, continue on from here. I'll leave that up to you to decide, but I wouldn't delete them. I would leave them alone because they do make up this particular mod setup, and if you start deleting stuff like that, because it's part of this fuel production _01 setup, it may break the mod itself, because as I said before, when you look in the XML, the attributes that are set up may be looking for a specific thing like a fill plane, and when it's not there, that could then create an error. So unless you want to start editing the actual XML and removing things like that and whatever else from the XML itself, then it could get a little bit complicated. So I would probably suggest it's best to just leave them on the map somewhere or within the structure of the map, but bury it somewhere underneath. So what is that? Don't know what that is. Oh, is that the smoke? That's the smoke. Yes, I understand now. Now that is actually the smoke. So if I click on the smoke there, I just wondered what that little trigger there, or cube, or whatever that is, what that was. But that is actually the animation for the smoke, which I will be adapting somewhat to work with this somewhere within there. So for now I'm just going to leave it out there like that. Okay, so now what I want to do here though is I want to bring in something else to kind of complete this. So what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to click that. I'm just going to bring that in a little bit. I don't need it to be out that far. So I'm just going to do like that. And then hopefully, let's just see if this works. It may not. Water dummy, water dummy, water dummy. So let's try that. That one. Try that. There we go. Perfect. So they all now line up okay there. So that's nice. It gives me a little bit more space there. So that's nice. Okay, so the next thing I want to do here now is to bring in a building of some description. So what I'm going to do now is come back to, if we go into the models and objects, you can see I've got my parts in here. So what I'm going to do now though is go into File, Import. I'm going to go back to my desktop just to make sure I am in the right folder. Fuel production _01. You could rename that if you wanted to before you started the process to something a little bit different than that, but you know, it doesn't really matter too much. So I'm going to go models, objects, and I want to bring in, let's do container. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, that's fine. That should be okay. So now, theoretically, because I have a base, I can go edit, interactive placement, and then bring it over. Perfect. Okay, so what I want to do here then is maybe, let's rotate that round maybe to there, like so. So I'm going to bring this over, put it somewhere like that. We'll see how that works. And then what I want to do then is make a copy of that. So Control D for Delta on the keyboard, and then I'm going to bring that out. Might actually have 3 of these, so let's bring that one across to there to match that in a little bit. Yeah, it's not too bad. It will be covered up by the smoke anyway, so shouldn't have a problem. Now I've made my first mistake there. What did I say at the beginning? We need to make sure we cut and paste these into the main transform group, because otherwise when you import it into a map, it will go all screwy. So that's my error there. So I just noticed that, luckily. So I need to actually highlight that, Control X to cut it, go into my main transform group, Control V to paste it. As you can see now, it's shot off halfway across the map. So what I'm going to do is highlight this one and delete it, and then I'm going to re-highlight this one and then go edit interactive placement to bring it back over. You must make sure that when you do this you that you cut and paste it into the main transform group, and to do that before you actually move it anywhere into position, because as you can see there, after I cut and paste it into the main transform group, because the user attributes on that transform group, sorry, the attributes on that particular transform group were different, it then caused the actual container to shoot off across somewhere else in Giant Certus. So just be aware of that. Might catch you out, as it has me many times. So again, I'm going to go Control D to copy it. Now what I could do here is actually rescale these containers to make them much larger, which is an option, but the downside of doing that is that when you rescale something, it will stretch the textures of that particular building. So sometimes rescaling it can be a disadvantage, because then when you actually look at the textures on the building, they're all stretched to high L, and they just don't look right. So sometimes it's just a case of making a copy of something and then making that bigger by, like I've done here, making more of them, making more of the same thing. Okay, so again I'm going to go Control D, and then what I need to do here is actually rotate this, because I want the windows and everything else to be on the outside. And then so I'm going to change that to 0 so it aligns, and then come like that and then bring it out. What I need to do here is just make sure that it aligns with the others. Okay, might need to come down a little bit. No, it should be okay. So come across like there, deselect it, that looks okay, that'll be fine. Doesn't look too bad, I don't think. Doesn't line up perfectly, but again, you know, this is really going to be sort of finessing it as we go. So, you know, once we get it into the map and make sure it's actually working, then we can play around with it and get it actually looking a bit better. So what I might do is just bring that one over a little bit, bring that one over a little bit. Oops, a bit too far. And you need to be aware or be careful when you actually join these things together, because if you get too excitable and start building them too close together, or actually interacting with each other in too much of a closeness, then when you move in Giant Certus, or more particularly when you move in game, you'll get flickery textures, because there'll be textures overlapping other textures. So just be a bit careful with that. Okay, so next thing I want to do here is, now that I've got that somewhat set up, before I bring in my smoke and everything else, I want to bring in this so I can actually still see what I'm doing, because once I bring the smoke in, I'll be a little bit blinded by it, so I won't be able to see what I'm doing so much. Okay, so obviously that's a little bit too big, so let's see what that's 3.5, so that's fine. So 0.5, no. So let's change that back to 1, and we'll go 0.5. We'll bring that in, bring it over, bring it back out a little bit, bring it up, bring it over. Fortunately, because of the join there, it's not quite totally flat, so it makes it a little bit tricky to get that against there without it interfering with it, but that should be fine. I think that will be okay. Yeah, I don't think that'll be too much of a problem there like that. I think it looks pretty good. We'll go with that for now anyway, at least. Okay, so now that I've got that set up there like so, I've got some sort of a building, and I've got my triggers set up, I believe, and whatever else. So, and the idea is that I've got them positioned there so that I will be able to drive around here, come onto the actual tip triggers here, the grain station if you like, and look out my window and see the triggers there if they were back here somewhere. So if you were to drive in this way and come over, which is a possibility, obviously you won't be able to see the actual sight glasses here, the fill levels indicators, but you know, however you want to do that. Okay, so next thing I want to do here though is I want to bring over some other parts. So what have I got here? So that's the main triggers and everything, so I don't want that. What I want is this part, which is the schwank. Okay, and I'm going to bring that over, and let's edit interactive placement, and we'll put it somewhere here. So I'm just going to lift that up, and we'll just put it in somewhere at the edge of the building there. That'll be fine. Yep, that'll be fine. So I'm going to put that there somewhere like so. Just bring it out a little bit. There we go. And then what I want to do is bring over the interactive trigger that goes with that. So that when my guy in game obviously comes over here and hits this trigger, we will get the information displayed in our F1 menu in the top left, so I know exactly what I need to put in or what is required to make it all work, and what I need, what I'm low on, and whatever else. So, and obviously how much fuel I've produced, hopefully. So that should be fine there. Again, these sorts of things, they sometimes you might need to have a play around and manipulate them a little bit to get them to work exactly right. So again, now I'm going to grab this signal lamp, and this is the one that changes color. So obviously red is empty. I believe amber is what is amber? Oh, amber's full up, I think, isn't it? And then green is working. I believe that's the way it works, but you know, whatever. So we'll put that, let's put that like that. There, that'll do. Again, we can change that and whatever else later on. Okay, so next thing I want to do here is, let's see, we've got this heap. Is that it? Okay, that's fine. So with the main transforms group selected there, I'm going to basically bring this over and again bury that somewhere under this main plate or base plate, whatever you want to call it, that I've put in. So we'll just do that. That'll be fine there like that. Just so it keeps it, you know, somewhere within the mod we're creating here and out of the way of everything. So that's fine. Okay, so next thing I want to do here is we've got a couple of other things, which is the actual triggers themselves now, where I get my actual fuel from. And you can see there are some other parts over here. I wouldn't really worry too much about those, if I'm honest, because they're non-renderable, so they'll just be buried under the map that you're going to import it into, so I wouldn't really worry too much about those. But the one I do need is this one over here, the fill pipe one. And what I want to do here is create a place where this will be my fuel collection. Now what I have to be careful of is this particular trigger is set up so that as soon as you drive over it, it gives you what you require. So knowing that, and knowing that I'm going to be coming in with a tanker that I will have water in, if I was to put the actual trigger somewhere here for the fuel, potentially I could drive in here, empty my water into there. As I drive out with my empty tanker, I could then pick up the fuel. Now if that doesn't particularly bother you, and you have a tanker that you just use generic for everything, including slurry, fuel, water and whatever else, then it won't make any difference. But if you're a little bit more finicky, or you're a little bit more want to play on a realistic sort of style, then perhaps maybe you have a blue tanker for your water, red tanker for your fuel, and a brown one for slurry, whatever. Or even if they're all the same damn color, you may have different tankers for different liquids. So you may not want to come in with a water tanker and then pick up fuel with that, just in a role play situation. So putting it somewhere on the exit side of your tip trigger may not be such an appropriate place. Again, however that works for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in a position where hopefully everything will make sense. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to what am I going to do? Let's do it over this side, shall we? So what I'm going to do here now then is I'm going to bring in another item. So I'm going to go File, Import, go back to my desktop, make sure I'm in the right folder, Fuel Production 01, Models, Objects, and I've got Tank. So I'm going to bring that into the map, and again, remembering Control X to cut it, click the main transform group, Control V, this brings it into the main body of the mod, so it will be selected with the main transform group. And then highlight that tank in the cinegraph here. I can go Edit, Interactive Placement, bring it up onto the surface of the map. Perfect. Now one side of this is in the right and back to front, and one side isn't, so perfect. So what I want to do here is put this somewhere over here. Maybe like that. Don't know what you think, I don't know. Let's see. We can always change that if it's not working for us or whatever else, but I think that looks pretty good. I don't think that looks too bad. So what I want to do now though is actually bring that pipe fill trigger thingy, and I want to bring it over and put it somewhere that's relevant to this, because that's where I'm going to get my biofuel from. So I basically put that somewhere like so, and we can have it so that you actually have to reverse into there to actually pick it up. I don't think that's too bad an idea. That way it makes it a little bit more difficult to pick it up by accident. So next thing I want to do here is I've got manhole cover, Edit, Interactive Placement, and we'll bring that over as well, just so it gives us something on the ground to kind of eye up and line up with, so we're not just guessing where we actually collect our fuel from. Okay, so if I go back into my thing here, and I just move that over a little bit so it lines up with the manhole cover there. Now theoretically, when I reverse in with my probably Coke Universal tanker, but whatever you choose is up to you how you get your fuel. Then I will hit that trigger by driving over the manhole cover there, and hopefully it will fill up with fuel. So fantastic. So far I'm thinking we're on a winner. So the next thing I want to do here now then is click on my smoke and bring that back into a position where it looks appropriate for what we're doing and everything else. And I need to set this up so that it doesn't look stupid, and also I don't have triggers poking out all over the place. So what I want to do here maybe is scale this down a little bit. That might be the wrong one, so let's do 0.5, 0.7, 0.8. Now again, when you're scaling something like this, you have to be careful, because I don't know if you already noticed, the more I scaled it down, the actual smoke started to look a bit stupid, because it's then becoming stretched and doesn't look right. So if I click off of that, we should be, I think, okay. Right, so next thing, audio source, where's that? That's all the way over there. So what I want to do here is bring the audio source in against my mod here. So let's do something like that, and we have another audio source which is already over anyway, so that's fine. Not sure what the other audio source, what's that one? So we'll have a look at the audio sources here. So we've got two. So if I come over to my attributes again, audio, and I'll just click in here and see what we've got. So this one is fuel production, blah blah blah, mixer idle WAV, and then this one is same. So they are actually identical sounds. So that's fine. Don't need to worry about that. If one was like a perhaps maybe an empty refill or something like that, it might be relevant, because you would need to move it more closely to the actual area that we're going to take our fuel from, whatever else. You may not even want to have audio, might be something you're not really interested in. You may want to even get rid of the smoke, might find that that's just not appropriate. But whatever you choose, quite like the idea of the smoke there. Just gives it a little bit more of a sort of factor that something's going on. Or it could just look like the building's on fire, one of the two. But we'll leave it alone for now. I'm going to leave it there, and I'm going to go with it, and we'll see how it works. If it looks stupid, then it will be removed. But for now, I'm going to leave it there. Okay, so we've now produced some sort of fuel production center that theoretically, if all the triggers are set up correctly, I should be able to come in and collect my fuel from, and whatever else. Now again, this is something that might be beneficial, might not be. If you wanted to, here we have got a base plate of some description. So going back to the other UPK mod, you can see this actually has some sort of fencing around it, and an automatic gate and whatever else. So it might be a case that you want to set it up in a similar manner, so that no matter where you put it on the map, you will automatically get an enclosed area with a fence and whatever else. I'm not going to do that, simply because I've already tried it and it was okay, but I then had to create an area, and this was on just a sample mod map. I had to kind of create an area for the actual mod to be incorporated into that map, so I ended up having to delete the hedges and the fence and everything else, because it looked like you had like an area within an area, which to me just didn't look right. So I ended up removing all of that and just sort of going back to this open sort of style. even though the mod that I created the last time I experimented with this was a lot bigger than this. I hadn't downsized it quite so much as this. Nonetheless, it was still relatively somewhat difficult to kind of set up in an area without actually editing the map to make it fit, if you like, make it fit in. So perhaps in a smaller case like this, it might be something that's more beneficial to build up, an enclosed area with an automatic gate and all the rest of it. But I think if you're going to put it into a map, then you can generally do that anyway, but in the map itself, not in the separated mod. But anyway, I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to end this one because my throat's getting a bit dry. I need a drink. So I'm going to end this one now, and then we'll pick this up later on where we'll have a play around with the script and the mod desk and whatever else. And hopefully, once we get all this built up and into a map, we can put some, well, again, in this case, what I will do very quickly here is I'm just going to have a look at the actual triggers. And I will show you in here we have this trigger which is for water, this one which is for hemp. Now what I want to do here is actually change this, and I'm going to do this now before I forget to do it. So I'm going to change this from hemp to rape, which is canola, and then we have this one which is maize, which is corn. So hopefully water, rape and maize, we should have some sort of setup there where it will be usable on even a bog standard base map where there are no multi-fruits. Like I said before, you could change that to fertilizer, from water to fertilizer, or whatever you wanted to do, but I'm going to keep it with water, and then have the canola and the corn as my two fruit types, my grain types that go in there to then process and create hopefully my biofuel. So as I say, I'm going to save this now and exit out of this, and then when we come back we'll have a look at the scripts and how to join all that together and what parts need to go into the mod desk. And then later on, maybe in that video or another video, I don't know yet, I'll be looking how to then put it into a map, create an area on a map and put it into a map. So that's it for part 2, and we will pick this up again in part 3, where we'll probably add in a few more parts here and there, some more buildings maybe, and then we'll get this up together, and hopefully then in that video we'll be putting it into a map, probably Thornton Farm, but I haven't quite decided yet, but it's more than likely going to be Thornton Farm. And then we'll get it all up and running hopefully, and get some biofuel or some fuel created and continue on and finish this off. So thank you again very much for watching, and hopefully you'll join me in part 3.